How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. And you?
All is good. All is good.
Okay.
Welcome to Kuwait for the second time, right?
Thank you, absolutely.
How do you like it so far?
You know, always difficult to say, but what I see, it's really nice, and modern, and with, a lot of things moving, new construction, and yes, and the good side is the people. I'm very happy, to see it's quite new for me, to discover the culture here. And I really like that, I really like I said also in Riyadh, to see pictures and people who really appreciate the countryside, like back to the roots, to see, that they still continue to go to the weekend in the desert to appreciate
Did you visit? Did you want to attend or so?
We went. We had the chance one time to experience that, and it was amazing. Yeah, amazing.
That's good. That's good. Actually, you brought me to a question that I want to ask. As a company and as an independent watchmaker, I like that you still go around, and this is your second time. I don't remember last time you came, but this. How do you think about this direct relationship between you and the guy who's purchasing your watch?
I think, this is at the end of the day, what we do is also related to human. The human values is what we do, I will say, with the craftsmanship, with all of that side. But at the end of the day, it's the relation that I remember that Philip before said for me years ago that never forget and don't forget that we are alive, which is not the case on every brand. And this is things like that I see more and more. The collector value that. And I'm happy with that, it's because, we still need the contact, the human value, the understanding, the talks, and not just, I will say, an item that we buy, and what is behind that, what is the philosophy, what is the vision of the man who has placed a name on the dial. You see what I mean? So it's why it's so important to do that. Yeah.
And do you think these gatherings, before we get into your collection or a little bit in quick history about Romain Gautheir in general, from these interactions and gatherings you do, does it affect the way you think creative wise, more, like you said, values and things?
No, it doesn't affect, I will say, at all. One of the things I always say, and I'm born in the Valley de Joux, so since 47 years I'm seeing watches, with all of the big names that is in the Valley de Joux. And what I try to do with, I will say, our creation are to bring my vision and maturity in watchmaking. And this is where I think it's important, If we try to adapt or to copy, this is not what our collectors are expecting, And this is what I'm trying to do, and also sometimes to push some borders, But that's the freedom that I have, in terms of creativity. And I know that our collectors are waiting, expecting, I will say, that kind of things. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What year did you decide that you want to have a dial with your name on it?
It's a good question. To be born there, I had a lot of respect about if I did enough to be free or to be honored in a way to place my name on the dial. And I really had that reflection, and by the fact that, yes, I did quite a lot. It was clear that I was, I will say, I could do that, but I really had the thinking. So this is why what you ask is really interesting. Yeah.
And what year was that? When is the first watch you produced?
Yes, exactly. The first drawings I started before the MBA that I did in 2000. But I will say 2 weeks after my graduation in 2002, I started to develop the first caliber, the Prestige HM. And clearly at that time, yes, I was working on my AutoCAD CAD, and I had to place on the dial something, you know.
Yeah.
So since the starting, I have placed my name on the dial when I was, you know, because I did my MBA and all of the thinking related to that. So with the CAD, I placed my name. But before to launch everything, for sure, I was really thinking about that. But for sure, I did, I did it.
And as a watchmaker, where do you usually start? Do you start with the movement, going to design, or you do the opposite?
Yeah, for me it's clear. It's always the movement. You know, it's always the complication or what will be, you know, the interesting point. I'm always thinking, and this is my vision, that our collectors will buy what we do for what is inside. And for sure, I had to I will say to be better, or to move also in terms of design. You know, I started with the HM that a lot of collectors said to me that, Romain, we don't see it's a full dial, we don't see the movement, the beauty is on the backside. It's a kind of, you know, we want to wear the watch in the opposite. And it's why, in a certain way, I understood that, because the level of finishing that we did also at that time was already, you know, with the rounded beveling, the sharp beveling, with a generous polished bevel. Yes. And so means the HMS came, then the logical one, and the logical one for sure was exactly that, you know, drive by what is inside. The HM was also that. So yes, always this is how I start, and the dimension that we need is related to the movement.
And actually, when I think personally about Romain Gautheir, is that I see a dial in one corner, and I see everything is either the fusee chain or I see the micro rotor. So that came after this feedback of you want to show the movement.
Yes, it was also a thinking about that, Romain, how your team today is able, you know, to finish everything. Why to cover that? And I started to understand also, for sure, there is collectors who doesn't like to open. You know.
A classical.
Yes, exactly, a classical. But for me, wearing, you know, the micro rotor, wearing the logical one, it's a kind of thing that you don't just see the time when you look at your wrist. You see history.
Piece of art, yeah.
Exactly. You see, you know, centuries of watchmaking, the DNA of what is, and I also really appreciate to see the watch alive. And this is one of the things that probably a lot of collectors today appreciate more and more, that you see your watch is alive, and it's a mechanical energy in a certain way. Yeah. So I like that. Yeah.
Amazing. And just to be honest, also now we live in a nice, good demand for independent watchmakers. And you mentioned a name that for years was struggling to sell watches, Philippe Dufour. People kill for a watch from Philippe Dufour now. Why do you think, before I get to the last subject I want to talk about, which is your sports watch, which to me made it more accessible to get to your world, which I appreciate for so many years, and this is picking up very well. But what do you think that switched that? What do you, in your opinion, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, you're a student of Philippe Dufour and you have a good relationship with him. In his history, it was difficult for him, and he had success in Japan and then Hong Kong, but people didn't really appreciate hand finishing, the construction of the movement. But now people do.
Absolutely. I will say, you know, probably what has completely changed is the communication, the way to communicate, the work of all of the journalists, you know, around the world, the magazine, and for sure, you know, the opening with the social media, you know, who created, I will say, a dynamic and a new dimension about how to get the information. And then for everybody who started to be interested, you could do that at home. And this has probably changed a lot, like during the COVID. Why this happened? Because people stayed at home. And at home, what everybody started to do is to think about the passion that they have, to get more time to be maybe, you know, more focused about this, because it was, you know, almost the only things to do. So I will say the COVID was something, you know, that nobody will expect ever, and place that situation to be at home and to think about the things that we appreciate. And probably, you know, this was a kind of accelerator of the understanding. And yes, because the information today is quite easy to find. Yeah. So for sure, for Philippe Dufour, it was complicated, you know, at the starting, because when he explained me so many times, he was showing what he was doing, and the retailers and everybody always said in a way to him that, yes, but that's the same of what we have, so what's the difference? So I can imagine how it will be for him complicated, and sometimes we'll say I can imagine a lot of frustration, you know, that knowing that it's completely different than, but how to explain, how to break maybe some you know, some ideas, you know, about that.
And I think now also what changes that now we have this direct relationship. I'm sitting with one of the best watchmakers in our culture, in our century, let's say, and you can get in touch. You can text him on a WhatsApp thing. We have watchmakers we can text and such. This is all changed. Back then, you have to go to a retailer that expose you to these collectors. Let's talk about the watch you have, which made a huge success. You announced it. I think the first ever was for only watch, before doing it officially.
Yes.
And if I'm not mistaken, you changed the name now, right? If
yes.
This is
yes.
So let's talk about a short history of this watch. Why did it come to
Yes.
Why did you produce it and such?
You know, there is, I will say, a lot of reason, and it was also a way to come back to the starting. When I started with the Prestige HM, a lot of collectors probably forgot, but the HM was the price of the C. The C by Romain Gautheir. At that time, 17 years ago, I will say, the Prestige HM was exactly the same price. And I have seen that, you know, at that position of price, there is a lot of possible collectors, you know, and I will say with the passion to enjoy at that level of price.
Yeah.
And for sure, at that time with the HM, it was the starting, and I was wrong, you know, with the price. I was literally, you know, drive with my passion. Anyway,
you were wrong
if
at
I
price
did,
at that price. You thought you should do it more expensive.
It's not. We should. We had to do that. Otherwise, business-wise, it will be impossible to continue. And so fully with my MBA, I started to understood that something is after years a little bit wrong. You know, you try every year, but it's not good, and it's not good. Yeah. So means I had to learn about how to balance, you know, passion and how to manage that in a way. There is always, you know, the responsibility when you start to have a team, you know, they believe on you, and they believe on you to continue to work and to have a work. So this is important, yes. And so I managed that, and the C by Romain Gautheir is also, I will say, the 17 years of work, understanding about manufacturing, understanding about finishing, understanding about metal, understanding about details that, for example, here some collectors care, you know. And this is how, for me, it was important before to do more exceptional things in the future, to have something in the right price, you know, in a level that we give access to what we do. It means 40% today with my team, with something which is still expensive, I totally agree, but more reasonable than maybe what we are going also to launch in the future.
But there is one of the things that I really appreciate of this watch, that there's no compromises. The finishing is just still an amazing finishing. The material for the movement now you're using is titanium, right? Which is much harder than to do than the regular brass, what other movements use.
Exactly.
And I think there's another. I think the platinum also. There's something special about the platinum.
Yeah, with the gold movement.
With the gold movement.
So yes, it's why I said, with 17 years of experience, the finishing, the manufacturing, and also I will say 17 years of challenge. When you finish the things extremely well, and you don't use the metal who can support, the affection by the time. You need to plate. You need to place some protection on it, and it's gold, palladium, different things like that. And that work is not always stable and giving the best quality. So it gives also, when it come back, some work for the team. Sometimes it's also, we take all of the bridges and we have to place in the trash. And this is all of those years of experience, and also protecting my team in terms of motivation, that I understood that Romain, with the level of watchmaking that you are doing, let's use the plain metal. It means, the 18 carats, the gold, and also the titanium. So we use the titanium since a long time. The first watch that I decided to do was the HMS at that time, with a titanium case. And the first movement in titanium after that was with the skeleton, the micro rotor skeleton. Exactly. So I honestly like titanium for many reasons, and this is why for me clearly the future will be drive with titanium movement and gold movement.
Amazing. Also the way you finish the titanium, that gives it a look that looks like white gold, right?
So, we experience that, with the titanium is a technical metal, and doesn't really like to be polished.
Yeah,
so it takes time. It takes time, and on a case it's already complicated. But you can imagine on a bridge, you cannot apply the right pressure. So if you don't apply the pressure, you need to take the time. So it takes a lot of time to polish. So for sure, with the titanium edition, I decided to don't polish. To be at the price that I would like to be. And that was, I will say, a challenge. So this is why I have not applied the same type of design from the logical one, the micro rotor or the prestige, to the C. And it's because I know the differences between all of this. There is an artistic design, and the C is more, I will say, a modern approach, but also an approach who give us the possibility to be at that position. And this is not because we know how to do the artistic, that has to be less or not as beautiful as it is on artistic if we do something modern and contemporary. So for sure it was a challenge for me, in a way to design something that you have no limits, like a logical one, and this is what our collectors are expecting, to something that you have in a way to try to give the best as possible, but in a different philosophy, a different design. And it was a challenge, and I'm really happy how the
feedback is amazing.
Yes,
and as I told you before, a lot of, let's say, independent watchmakers, they have this Grail watch. Like, I love the logical one and every single thing you did, but to me it's really hard to obtain because of the price range and such. But to have this watch is really good. The last question I have for you. So now you're focusing on the C. What is the next complication you're planning to do?
So it's like I said, the complication means, at the level that we are, a different position of pricing. Price.
Exactly.
So this is why, we are fortunate, to have collectors around the world who give us the possibility, to to enjoy, to be crazy, to be really creative with that kind of things. So for sure there is during the last, I will say, 17 years, we have not done so many calibers. And now the things are a little bit moving, you know. And during, I will say, the next 3 years, you will see few new calibers. Yes, it took us, I will say, quite a lot of inertia, but to stabilize all of our capacity. And yeah, so 24 you will see a complicated one, which is not going to be a complication related to a complication that everybody think. It's going to be a complication in terms of engineering, manufacturing, and to express in a way the evolution of tradition. Amazing. And this is the things that I really like. I will say the evolution of tradition is really resonating a lot to me. Yeah, and it's me who wrote the evolution of tradition. I didn't. It's
not like a marketing company.
Exactly. It's why, you know, it's so related to me. And I will say on 24 you will see something which is absolutely the evolution of tradition.
Amazing.
And with another angle. And for sure, the future will be with logical 2.
Logical 2. Honestly, the reason why I ask you about the next complication, because if I ask the other question, which is what is the next model, it's usually a color, a material. But when you tell a watchmaker a complication, this is where you do most of the work, right? You see the new movement, new caliber, new thing. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much.
I'm really hoping next time you're here, we do a full long one. We're going to go really deep in Valley de Joux. How did you start? Where did you go to? And what did you do? We have very limited time, but thanks. And thank you for coming to Kuwait for the second time. And I really hope to see you every year here. And as I told you, this is actually what makes us love and support independent watchmakers, because we can feel them. It's not like an employee coming because he has to go to an expo and he has to sit and he has to sell. So thanks a lot. And I hope you enjoyed the interview.
Yes, thank you so much. I really appreciate it, and with a great pleasure next time.